Hello, my name is Teresa Lasang. I'm a RN to BSN student with Lamar University, and I have a lecture that I'm about to give the nurses in the ICU, which is the inpatient unit with the hospice company where I work, about disaster preparedness. So the topic of my lecture today is how to make the nurses better prepared for a disaster. I have a booklet, if you can zoom in on this. It's a disaster preparedness booklet printed and approved by the city of Houston, Texas. And you can get this booklet by picking it up from any public library in Houston. Anywhere you go, you should be able to see this booklet. And they also have a website, which is HoustonOEM.net. And you can see that is the disaster booklet right there. So you can go to that website and print it. They update the booklet, update the site every single year. They update the site every single year, so you can go there, and because as years go by, they update the booklet and stuff like that. And at the back of the booklet, they have very important numbers. Numbers to the city department, numbers to 911, different kind of numbers. You can see some of the numbers, federal agencies like the U.S. Coast Guard. You can call them if you want to call them. The metro need for people that need metro, police department, fire department, emergency response, and all of that. So there you got it. Everyone is having this book for me today. So now, for disaster preparedness, before I want to proceed, I want to first of all clear out that we have many different kinds of disaster. There's man-made disaster, there's natural disasters. Natural disasters, you have natural disasters like what we have typically in Houston, which is the hurricane. And we're in August, we're approaching the hurricane season, so we have to be prepared. We have tornadoes. In other places in America, we have tornadoes. We have flooding. At times in Houston, we do have that. When we have serious rain, we have flooding in Houston. We also have bomb threats. That's another kind of disaster. We have hazardous materials. When a poisonous chemical get exploded, air pollution and all that. We have that. We have bombing, that's a man-made disaster when somebody puts a bomb somewhere that people have to be evacuated. We have a pandemic, which is a flu pandemic, when we had the H1N1 virus, when we have the swine flu, something like that. That is also a disaster. When we have fires, wildfires, we've seen a lot of wildfires, especially what's going on in California. That is another disaster right there. So those are different kinds of disaster, and every single one of these disasters have a way that we're supposed to plan towards them. There are disasters that you stay in place. There are stay in place disasters, so you have to equip your home that you can stay in place and wait for the storm to be over. And there are disasters that you have to evacuate, that is out of the house disaster. So now, the biggest important thing is to make a plan. And the reason why making a plan is important is because when you have a plan, you know who is in charge. You know who you need to call. You know exactly what you need to do. You know where to convene. You know what the next step is. So there is less chaos, there's less stress, there's less panic, and there's less impact when the disaster hits. Because if you know what to do, who to call, and all of that, you can get to the next step. Then being that, okay, what are we supposed to do? Who are we supposed to call? All of that can be eliminated completely when there is a plan. So the most important thing that we have to do in a disaster is to make a plan. And in a facility like this, we need to have a plan in place. Usually, what I know, I've worked in a nursing home before, I've worked in a facility before, the director of nursing is usually the one that is in charge, that needs to be called, or the administrator. Those are the two people that are always on top of everything, that have to be called. They are the ones that give instructions. They are the ones that you go to for any unknown circumstances, any questions that you need to be answered. So if you know who's in charge, you go to them and you know exactly where to convene. Like, let's say there's a disaster in place, there's a fire in the building. Where is the escape route? Which door do you use? Which elevator do you use? We don't use elevators in emergencies. And if you have a plan, you will know that. But if you don't have a plan, in all that panic, in all that chaos, you might want to go to an elevator, and that is what? Wrong idea. You don't go to an elevator when there is fire. But if you have a plan, plan. And if that plan is practiced upon, if it is rehearsed, if it is known, then there is no panic. So that is so, so important. I can't stress how important it is to have a plan. The next thing is you want to have an emergency kit. An emergency kit is very important. There are two kinds of emergency kit, and I will allow that for you. You have an emergency, which is a go bag, and you have an emergency kit that is a stay in place bag. And like I said earlier, there are two kinds of escape route. The one that you have to get out of your house, that's when you use your go bag. And another one that you stay in place, that's when you use your bag in place. And in a disaster kit, you want to have simple things like a band-aid. What happens is that all of the chaos, somebody scraped their hand. You need a band-aid to put it on. You want an antibiotic bacteria ointment that you have to put on it. You want an adhesive and cohesive bandage to wrap it if anything happens. And most importantly, you want a duct tape. So people don't think duct tape is important, but I'll tell you duct tape is very, very important. And another important thing that people always forget, don't forget that ibuprofen. Don't forget that Tylenol. Don't forget that Aleve. Drop one of these medications in the bag for pain and for fever reducing. With all of this panic, some people might get some kind of temperature. You need to give them something to bring them down. And also, this is a facility. This is an environment where people are sick. Do not forget their prescription medication. You want to have at least 14 days dose of prescription medication in the house. There are people that have high blood pressure. They cannot go without their medication for 1 day. There are people that have COPD. They cannot go without their oxygen for a minute. So those are things you have to incorporate into the planning, into the kit. You have to have all of this. And do not forget the hand sanitizer. You might have a disaster where the water is shut off. You need hand sanitizer because that's the only, besides hand washing, hand sanitizer can reduce the transfer of bacteria, the contamination of bacteria from one person to another. So you don't want to forget that. And also another thing that you need that torchlight. You need a flashlight. If the electricity go off, you need that flashlight. You need those batteries. You need a handheld radio so you can hear what is coming, and if you guys are out of it yet, you need that pocket knife. People don't see you need that pocket knife. You need cash. Most of the time, people forget about cash. They think, oh, I have my ATM card, I can go to my ATM. What happens if you're stuck at home? You can't go anywhere. You need cash. What happens if you have to get out and have to take this patient out of there? The ATM is closed down. What do you do? How do you get gas? You need cash. I cannot stress this important. Those are little things that are very, very important. You need that. And don't forget that at all. Besides planning, another thing that is very, very important is food. Food and water. We cannot live without food and water. You cannot. You can have all the medication in the world and everything. What do we tell our patients? You have to eat in order for that medication to work. So food and water, you have to keep a supply of for 4 days for each person in your facility for food and water. Which means if you have 20 residents, you have to have 4 days supply for each one of those 20 residents. And that is not a little supply, that's a lot of supply. And also for the staff, you have to keep 4 days supply of food and water. And most of the time, what kind of food? Is canned food. So you want to keep canned food that you guys can eat without a microwave. You guys can eat without having to cook it up. So canned food is the best food to go, which is non-perishable items, the best food to go in a disaster. And do not forget that can opener. If you have canned food and you don't have can opener, you might as well just die, because how do you open up the food? So you need that. You need your can opener. Those are things that you don't want to forget. And also, the best way to stay prepared for a disaster, you can know all of this. You can have a plan. You can, oh yeah, I know we have a plan. Yeah, we have a plan somewhere. I know we have to call the director of nursing. We have a plan. I know we have a plan. I know we have a plan. What is the plan? Have you ever taken time to see it and read the plan? Do you know what to do? That That is the question. So most of the time, the best way to educate nurses about the plan is doing a disaster drill. So disaster drill for me is going to be the way that I'm going to evaluate that the teaching that I did today was effective, was well taken in. A disaster drill. So a disaster drill, I will come in and tell you, okay, now we have a hurricane. An alarm bell goes off. It's like you're doing a fire drill. An alarm bell goes off. What do? Do you run to that fire extinguisher? Do you run where there is a fire? Do you close the doors, the exit doors to your residence? You confine the fire in a little place. What do? And we all know the best path to success is practice, practice, practice. So fire drill for me is going to be my biggest key in evaluating that my teaching was successful. And like I said, this website is very important. If you go here, you have the book. If you go there, and you can go right down there to read more, it will tell you this is the book right here. It has different parts to it. We have different years to it. You can see this is 2012 because it has to be updated every single year. There are changes that have to be made to the site every single year. So this is a very, very basic site that you can go to. It has, like I was saying, you need to make a plan, you need to practice and maintain the plan, you need to build an emergency kit, you need to stay informed, and you need to know your neighbors. So know the plan, maintaining the plan and everything. You have all of this here. This is it. The emergency kit I was talking about. You go there, your go-to bag, and your stay-at-home bag. You need all of this information. You need to know all of this. So if you need additional information, you can go to this website and look at it. This is emergency preparedness for patients with functional support needs. You can go there and read. There's also something here for those pet lovers. There we go. You have a pet disaster supply kit. You go there and read everything you need to prepare for your pet. There we go about the prescription medication. If you have those COPDs and those hypertension and those diabetic patients, we need those medications. You need to know your neighbor. Needs the community response, the disaster. They have different kinds of disaster. There we go. That's the hurricane. What you need to do. This is severe weather, which is thunderstorms. You have the flooding, the tornado, the lightning. Before and after a weather, what do? You know, we have the this is just so good. It's been divided up into zones, so you can actually tell which zone you were in, what you need to do, and all of that. And they have all of these emergencies that you can call. This is just a ton of information. This is a location where you can go and get many different kinds of information. This is so informative. When I found this book, I was so excited because this is just exactly what I was looking for, and these are the helpful tips. You call the numbers and everything and get the information done.